Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I got a lot of sports to talk about today. We're going to crank it off here in just a second with our good buddy Brent Beaird talking college football. Second portion of the show, it's our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We'll talk a little high school football on this Thursday morning. But let's go straight to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our good friend, Heisman Trophy voter, college football analyst. He's got all kinds of titles, folks. It's our friend Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, I'm doing well. Always good to be on with you, enjoying this cool weather, which is a blessing to say the least. Was able to endure 13 innings of the Braves yesterday. Fortunately, they won. So it's a good time of year to say the least.
It is. And Brent, I just want to, before we get into some kind of the news and notes, what's going around, especially the SEC, your thoughts on week one of SEC football.
Well, I think obviously the big surprise was Mississippi State beating LSU. And even though Ole Miss didn't win, I thought Lane Kiffin certainly showed us what he's capable of doing with Matt Corral. I'm a little surprised that Plumlee didn't play more than he did, but still there were other Alabama kind of held serve, shall we say. And I thought even though Arkansas didn't win, I thought at least for half they showed kind of what they may do by the end of the year. Won't win a lot of games, but yet I think we saw some improvement. Georgia's situation, a lot of questions remain there. But I think overall the thing that really struck me, and I'm curious if you felt the same thing, you could tell that there were not a lot of tackling practice, although the play overall I thought was fairly good. The thing that really stuck out to me is compared to what we grew up with and what you played in, at least with some of those teams, the SEC on Saturday was a 7-on-7 league. And the teams that had a veteran quarterback and good chemistry with the receivers, it paid dividends for them. So it was a very interesting Saturday.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, Brent. I've said all week long, talking to different people around the country, whether it's on my show or other shows, the days of the SEC or any college football team holding opponents to 20 to 24 points or less are over, in my opinion. Yeah. The game has just changed. The rules favor the offense, the style of play, kids playing so much 7-on-7, as you mentioned, in high school and the all season. I just think it's all about getting the ball in space and people having to tackle great athletes. And, you know, I'm a firm believer. I do believe the tackling was down, but you can't tackle these days that much in practice because coaches are so concerned about injury. And I just think you're going to see track meets week in and week out.
Well, I would agree with that. And look, if you're a defensive-minded guy, like a lot of us grew up with, it's no longer yardage, but it's red zone defense and how many turnovers that you can force. I think that's much more appropriate right now when you're watching a defense and judging them, Shane, by how many yards they allow, because right now, particularly when you're dealing with LSU and Mississippi State. I mean, when you're allowing 1,000 yards and still have a chance to win the game, that's really the bottom line.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Brent, some news and notes around the league. A couple of players that have been waiting on to get their waiver approved have. Tell us about those guys.
Yeah, this happened last night. Folks may miss this, but Joey Gatewood from Jacksonville is finally eligible for Kentucky. Now, some people who are more cynical than us would say, well, it's interesting that he got eligible the week after they played Auburn, which was his original team, but he is eligible now. And probably the more heralded guy between the two is Cade Mays, the Tennessee offensive lineman. He is now eligible. Transferring from Georgia. The one guy who is not, or at least we haven't heard that he is Ole Miss defensive back Otis Reese, who transferred from Georgia. He's still waiting on the waivers that are appropriate. Now, again, the thing, when some of these instances we have to remember is, number one, you're dealing with an NCAA waiver, and then you're dealing with an SEC waiver. And as a matter of fact, we talked about this last week, Shane, that Greg, the SEC commissioner, said last week that we're trying to be efficient with this. And people snickered at that when Greg Sankey said that. But a week later, it basically comes true. So we'll keep watching for Otis Reese. But amazingly, it just takes a lot of people to get through these waivers, which is probably why next year people are going to be relieved when everybody gets the one free waiver, the mulligan that's going to help a lot of these guys.
No doubt, Brent. So let's start Alabama. They go to Missouri. They play pretty well, especially when their starters were in there. But I'm still, it's like you said, defensively, Alabama looked good at some points, but Missouri moved the ball on them. Had really great success on third downs. What did you think about the Crimson Tide?
Well, I think a lot of when Missouri moved the ball was when they put a lot of their backups in defensively. But the reality is, not only for Alabama but everyone else, coaches are going to have to do this because the backups need some time in case you get a COVID outbreak. These guys need to be able to be on the field. One guy who was on the field for Alabama that made all kinds of difference was Dylan Moses. Alabama had 8 tackles for loss. Moses is the emotional and spiritual leader of that defense. He also makes a lot of plays. So they just played much better with him in the game. The usual Alabama suspects, Najee Harris, almost 100 yards. Jalen Waddle was virtually unstoppable. Devontae Smith, the same. Mac Jones has really grown, Shane. I'm interested in what you think about him from your proverbial game manager, where he makes plays now, 18 to 24 in that game. Now, this is an interesting matchup with A&M. A&M really struggled with Vanderbilt in a lot of ways. Kellen Mond, who has seemingly been there forever, only 189 yards, but I give Ted Roof some credit. He's a Vandy defensive coordinator. That group was playing well. And again, they don't have a lot of playmakers after Osborne, the wide receiver that was so good, opted out. Jimbo is 1-7 versus top 10 teams since he's been at Texas A&M. During that time, they had 8 penalties, 3 turnovers, and yet had another guy opt out in Clifford Chapman, who's a defensive back. They have some depth there, so that's going to help. But I think A&M will play much better. They usually do in Tuscaloosa, so this will be certainly a big test for both these teams.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the big game on the schedule in the SEC that everyone's looking at this week, I mean, obviously A&M and Alabama play, but it's the Georgia-Auburn game. Georgia struggled with DeJuan Mathis at quarterback. It goes to show you just because you're a 5-star doesn't mean you're going to play well. I thought Stetson Bennett played extremely well. I thought their defense looked good. What do you see in this Auburn-Georgia game?
Well, I see a low-scoring game. I talked to some Georgia beat writers who said they think that JT Daniels may end up being the quarterback in this game because they appreciate Stetson Bennett, but they're not sure that he is ready for a game like this, even though he really came in against Arkansas and gave them a spark. The dominant unit on the field is the Georgia defense. That some of the Georgia beat writers we talked to said was maybe the deepest and the best defense they've seen at Georgia yet. Auburn struggled to run the ball against Kentucky. Well, they also struggle to run the ball against Georgia. Jalen Carter, the defensive end for Georgia, played really well, and Darnell Washington, a tight end, did the same. Now, Georgia's got to cover Seth Williams, who's one of the better wide receivers in the league, especially on 50-50 balls. And Bo Nix has gotten better, and you've got to watch Bo Nix as a runner. This is the 125th meeting between these teams. The last time they played in October was 1936. By the way, I wasn't there to cover it either. But they usually play in November. Now, the last time Auburn won in Athens was 2005.
Wow.
So think about that a minute. Georgia has owned this series. They've won 12 out of the last 15. But Georgia's got issues. The offensive line struggle. They couldn't really run the ball with Amir White and James Cook, who frankly has been a disappointment. Their special teams played much better. Jake Camarda, the punter, was very impressive in that game. So, and Kirby Smart said this week, you mentioned Dwayne Mathis, that he's a great story because he had the surgery and came back from that. He had a cyst on his sinuses that they had to remove. And one thing that Georgia really did well is they had 11 penalties in the first half. In the second half, they had 1. So no doubt that this is the 2 top 10 teams. This, frankly, is the most heralded game in the nation this week.
Yeah. I'm anxious to see if JT Daniels does play. I think Stetson Bennett has what you call, he has a feel for the game and understands what needs to be done. What he did in one half, to me, I thought was outstanding. So it would not surprise me if JT Daniels starts and you see Stetson Bennett come off the bench again. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. Brent, we're speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. The Gators look really good on offense, had some issues on defense, but sometimes you got to credit the other team. And I just think it's going to be hard to stop folks this year. South Carolina comes in off a tough loss. I think South Carolina's better with Mike Bobo calling plays. What do you see in this game?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, they've got to cover Shi Smith. They don't have a lot of deep play threats, but Smith is one of them. He caught 10 passes against Tennessee. I'm curious what you thought about Colin Hill, too, Shane, the Colorado State quarterback who came over with Mike Bobo. He played well against Tennessee. Ernest Jones is a linebacker they've got to count for on every play. He led the team last year with close to 100 tackles. And again, a typical game for South Carolina last week. Really had a chance to, if they had gotten the ball back, to make a drive and win the game. But again, Tennessee punts. It hits one of the South Carolina freshmen on the ankle, and Tennessee recovers, and there's your ball game. Now, a couple of quick things on Florida. I thought Brett Hagee did tremendous at center, and he was the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week with that. They obviously have got to tackle better. Dan Mullen admitted they've probably done very little with it, but a lot of teams haven't done much tackling either. But I was impressed that Florida won with as many players out as they had. And I'm with you on defense. At some point, you've just got to give Lane Kiffin a lot of credit with what he can do at quarterbacks and what he did with Matt Corral. The Moore kid at wide receiver that had the faux pas in the end zone and the Egg Bowl is really a very good receiver. So I think the Gators win the game. But your matchup's going to be their defense is much better than Ole Miss's defense. And to me, the matchup's going to be the South Carolina D-line against the Gator offensive line.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this game will be a more, I don't want to say a defensive battle, but you'll see better defense this week in this game. I want to get your thoughts on LSU. They travel to Vanderbilt. LSU, they're upset by Mike Leach. We all saw the game, and it was outstanding. But I feel horrible for Miles Brennan because he is following the footsteps of the greatest season a college quarterback has ever put up. And Brent, the kid threw for like 340-something yards and 3 touchdowns and is being criticized. You know, he's not the guy having to cover the opposing team's receivers. So I thought he played pretty well under the circumstances. But Mississippi State's going to beat a lot of folks this year.
They are. There's no doubt about it. It's just the most amazing stat that I've seen all week is in the LSU Mississippi State game. The Mississippi State receivers gained 383 yards after the catch and after contact. That's amazing to think about that because, listen, Leach gets a lot of credit for developing quarterbacks, and he deserves that. But what Mike doesn't get enough credit for is how he develops wide receivers. And the truth of the matter is, if you stopped a lot of cars on 301 or downtown Gainesville and asked them who the receivers are at Mississippi State, very few people could tell you that. But back to LSU, Shane, we've talked for weeks now. You cannot lose the personnel that they did and the coaches. I remember Dave Aranda's gone and Bo Pelini is back with LSU. And obviously, Joe Brady is gone. You mentioned Miles Brennan, who I'm with you, is frankly a really pretty good quarterback. But they were not ready for what Mississippi State threw at them. They'll get better as it goes along. But again, I still think LSU probably loses at least a couple more games because it's almost Orgeron's not going to admit this, but Shane, it's almost a total rebuild this year at LSU.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of Mike Leach and his receivers, let's give a shout out to Bubba Spurrier, Coach Spurrier's son. He's been coaching with Leach, who coaches those wide receivers, does a tremendous job. We got about 2 more minutes here. We're left with Brent Beaird. Brent, I want to get your thoughts on Tennessee. I think Jeremy Pruitt's doing a good job, but they still haven't. I know they got the longest winning streak in the country, but they have not beaten anybody worth a darn. And until they beat a Florida, a Georgia, an Alabama, or somebody like that, they're not going to impress me. Your thoughts on how they played at South Carolina?
Well, I agree with you that the bottom line is they won the game, and probably, and Shane, the team that we saw last September in Gainesville, this team's much better. They are getting better. I agree with you. When you look at the 7 teams that they have beaten, it's not impressive. But at the same time, at least they're winning these games. And I think what you see in them is, and if they win this week, they could be 2-0 for the first time in 3 years. Garantano is still not a great quarterback, any stretch of the imagination. But they're rebuilding the line of scrimmage around Trey Smith, particularly with the offensive line. Henry Toto is a really good linebacker that everybody wanted. He had a pick 6. So they are slowly coming around, and they, I think, are getting much better. I think they'll beat Missouri probably too in that game. And in a game we really haven't talked about, and I'll just mention real briefly, Kentucky and Ole Miss, I think is a huge game for both these teams. It's particularly a big game for Kentucky. Now, Terry Wilson's got to get better. He had decent numbers, but he made some crucial mistakes. They've got to get Smoke and Rose, the running backs, more involved in the game. But, Shane, the last thing that Stoops needs, Mark Stoops at Kentucky, is to begin the year at 0-2, right? Particularly with the expectations on that program this year.
No doubt. Well, Brent, we could talk to you for hours, but it's Thursday, and we got to give some love to our high school coaches talking about their teams on Friday nights. Stay safe. Have a great weekend watching ball, and we'll talk to you next week, Brent.
Can't wait, pal. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird joining us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, full of information, no question about it. Does a great job everywhere he talks, and we appreciate him joining our show. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, remember FDIC. Going to take a time out here when we come back. It's time for the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup.
Hey Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Check out our show, Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell, every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
GTS Handyman Services, whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting in Gainesville, they are the team to hire.
Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance, Pomodoro Cafe,
Big Mills Cheesesteaks,
MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome to this Thursday edition of Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We're now going to go to the Titan MRI Hotline, and we're joined by head football coach of the Fort White Indians, former Gator defensive back, Demetric Jackson. Good morning, Demetric. How are you?
I'm good, Shane. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. First off, Demetric, y'all been able to play 2 games. You lost them both. We'll talk about those in a minute. But in Columbia County, where you coached there at Fort White, kind of been I don't want to say, well, it's been rough on everybody with COVID. How have your kids responded? And y'all kind of got a late start, right, on the season?
Yes, it's definitely been rough, needless to say. We kind of started about 3 weeks after everyone else started. We're just going into our 3rd game week. We only played 2 games. We started out versus Santa Fe on the 18th of September and then played Carrollwood last week, the 25th. So it's definitely been a challenge. And prior to that, we only had 2 weeks of practice, leading up to our first game. So it's definitely been a challenge. But, it's a great opportunity to still get out and coach and play. And so we look forward to it each week, regardless of our circumstances and situation.
Yeah. How many games do you have on your regular season schedule?
We have 7 games scheduled. We have Taylor County this week at home. Then we have an open week, and then we follow that with Baldwin at home. Then we pick up PK away, Newberry at home, and then we finish the regular season at Bradford on November 6th. So we have a total of 7 games. Forbid anybody, have to cancel or stop because of COVID or any other issues. But the other good thing is we're all in the playoffs, so we get a chance to continue our season regardless of how we do the regular season.
Yeah, let's talk about you've played 2 games, as you mentioned. Did you see an improvement from week 1 to week 2 among your kids?
I did from some guys. Honestly, Shane, we had 2 great weeks of practice. We just kind of ran an above, saw that second week, some things that we didn't really expect. We picked a team that we thought we could pretty match up well with early in the summer on the first part of the fall camp. And then we noticed the week before we played them, they ended up having 9 transfers to come in, and 4 of those 9 guys are highly recruited. Talking about SEC offers, and so you're talking about a 310-pound cost of average cost of front offensive line and defensive line. Has a tight end number 81 that was offered by Alabama and several other SEC schools. So it was a challenge. Our guys played hard, but we was really outmanned, particularly on the offensive defensive line, and we just could never get nothing going. But as I said, our kids, they played hard. It's kind of really hard to gauge what kind of improvement because we were so much outmanned that it was a rough night for us.
So when you look at your team right now, obviously all coaches want to improve on both sides of the ball. But right now, do you think your offense or your defense, which one's ahead of each other?
Right now, defense, we're kind of, we have a quarterback that's pretty good. We have a lot of guys that hadn't seen the field on offense. We only have one returning offensive lineman, one receiver, and one quarterback that has started any varsity games prior to this year. Defense, it's a little more. Guys played a little more defense, in years past. We still are young defensively, but we're not putting in as many things, and so they're playing a lot faster than we can on offense. It's a little more a learning curve for our guys on offense. So right now, I would say our defense is a lot farther ahead than our offense is.
It's got to be nice having two former teammates with Big Mark Campbell, who's a former Gator, and Shay Showers, former Gator defensive back, helping you out, right?
Man, that's been a major bonus to our program and to our staff. You're talking about guys that know how to win, that've been on winning teams, and they bring a wealth of knowledge to our program. And so, I'm excited about the direction our program is headed, especially with those two guys, and then Mark coming in with a lot of collegiate experience, particularly with the strength and conditioning. So there's some things that we're excited about, getting our guys to the next level with his experience in the weight room and in the field of strength and conditioning. But he's also, a guy that's played in the NFL and, has experience on the defensive line. So he's done a great job of helping our guys out. And, all of our players are really excited about having both of those guys with us.
Last thing for you, let you go here, Coach. I know you're busy. In order for Fort White to get the win Friday night, what do they need to do?
Well, it's several fold things that we really stress at Fort White, and one is to control the line of scrimmage. If our offensive line and defensive line come, we're a little more evenly matched, I would say, against Taylor compared to some of the other schools we're playing. Taylor's a 1A school, similar to us. They have some speed, but on the offensive line and defensive line is I think where we're kind of evenly matched. Turnovers is always a big battle. If we can win the turnover margin, I think we have a great shot of winning. And the last thing is not, careless penalties. We can play disciplined football, win the turnover margin, and control the line of scrimmage, which I think we can do all three of those things. We have a great shot of winning. They have some great athletes, as always, but we face some teams that are pretty big, and there's a real big challenge for us going against Taylor. So I think we're having a great week, and we'll be okay.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining the program. Good luck tomorrow night, and we'll have you on here in a couple of weeks, my man.
All right. Thanks, Shane. I appreciate you having me.
That's Coach Demetric Jackson of Fort White. Join us. We'll be right back with our next coach here on the High School Roundup.
Thank you for joining the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup.
Good morning and welcome to the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup here on a Thursday, talking a little high school football. We're now going to be joined by Coach Andrew Thomas of the Union County Tigers. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing well. Coach, you sit at 2-1 right now. Just talk a little bit about what your team has done well so far into this early part of the season.
Well, it's been a growing process. I'm first year here. When I was hired was back when everything shut down. I never even got to step on campus, and school shut down. So it's been a kind of a growing process since June when we was able to get started. But yeah, I've seen a lot of growth with our kids really over the last 2 weeks, especially offensively, starting to get a little bit more comfortable in our system. The we had a tough game week one, playing a rival in Dixie County, the first week. And I mean, that win kind of looks a little bit better right now, especially seeing what they've done the last couple of weeks. But was able to find a way to win that game. And then we struggled over in Newberry, second week. It was just one of those games where, they kind of controlled the ball the whole time, couldn't get off the field on defense. We never got in the rhythm offensively. So we're still trying to find some, identity truly offensively, but we got a lot comfortable last week. The biggest thing I've been proud of with our kids throughout all three games is just the effort that we've played in. And I mean, first 2 weeks, we were down 14-0 in Dixie, till 30 seconds left in the half. And then we were down 15-0 at half against Newberry. So, and we battled to that game come down to the last possession. So, I mean, our kids are learning how to battle, being first year here, trying to establish the culture that I want in this program. And, that takes some time, but, that's kind of, to me, the initial battle of just trying to establish what you want out of the kids and the fight and the effort. And, we're getting that out of them right now. So that's been the most impressive thing with me with the kids is we're learning how to compete, and learning how not to quit and play 4 quarters. And we're going to get better in our scheme and those kind of things as we go along.
Coach, you've been a very successful high school coach. How difficult has this year been with all the COVID, not only on you and your coaching staff, but on your players?
Oh, it's been tough, and I think probably every coach in America can say this is, experiencing something like no other. Not being able to have a spring, and then a lot of we're fortunate that we were able to kind of be business as usual throughout the summer in our county. We're a lot more rural. Union County is one of the lowest percentage rates as far as COVID goes. So we were able to be a little more normal in some of those things, but we still had a point where we had to shut down for 2 weeks back in July. But it's definitely been a challenge. I know a challenge for me personally with how I like to build a program on the weight room and physicality and those kind of things, and really not being able to do anything for months was a struggle there, because now it's just slowing down the process, and it's definitely been tough. And the thing we go through week to week right now is we still don't know if we'll play Friday. Right. We're planning on it. Everything's good, but we're liable to get a call tomorrow morning, from Hamilton County, or I might get a call from the health department, so it's just a constant uncertainty, that kind of just leaves you on edge.
So Coach, you, tomorrow night, you got Hamilton County, you said?
Yes, sir.
How do they look on tape?
They're a lot better than they've been the last 2 years. Hamilton County is just a few years away from playing from a state championship. 2014, they were playing for a state championship, lost to Port St. Joe, and they always have players. They have athletes. The last few years, they've struggled in numbers. They haven't had a lot of kids. Had some coaching changes. They seem to have a little more stability on that standpoint. And Coach Mitchell's you can tell on the sideline, he's got a lot more numbers of kids. They got some talent. They're new also, with the system. So they're kind of learning as they're going as well. They're going to be a team that, we're going to have to tackle well, because they got some players that can go, at any time. So we really defensively, we've got to tackle well. And we just got to continue to grow on our end as far as learning what we're trying to do. But going on the road, it's not going to be easy by any means.
I'm assuming Union County opted into the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep, we are.
Pretty much when it comes playoff time, pretty much everybody you're playing right now is who you're going to be playing in the playoffs, right? Because it's all these 1A schools, these rural areas.
Yeah, pretty much. In our region that we're in, we play really, as far as who we play, Dixie County's in our region, and I believe they're the only one in our region that we play.
Oh, okay.
So when we actually get in the playoffs, we can match back up with them. You never know, because the way the draw's going to be. But yeah, it's us, Fort White, Dixie County, Branford, Madison counties in our region. We're lucky enough to get that draw. And kind of those guys up in this area as well. And Hamilton this week. So Dixie and Hamilton's only two in our region we actually play in the regular season.
Gotcha. Well, Coach, good luck tomorrow night. We appreciate you taking the time. Good luck to the Tigers, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right, guys. We appreciate it. I'm glad y'all got the show back going.
Absolutely. That's Coach Andrew Thomas of Union County.
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Spurrier. I've been fortunate, blessed. A lot of good things have happened during my playing coaching career. A Heisman Trophy, national championship, a bunch of SEC championships also. And we're bringing that same attitude to the restaurant game. In the spring of 2021, we're opening Spurrier's Gridiron Grill right here in Gainesville at Celebration Point. We need some 5-star recruits to help fill all the positions in the restaurant, from the front of the house to the back. So if you think you got what it takes to make the cut, I invite you to have a one-on-one and greet me with some of our management team on Wednesday, October 14th at the Hotel Indigo at Celebration Point. Learn all about our job opportunities with the restaurant. Now let me make this clear. I'm only looking for the best of the best out there. So if you love your job, if you love the restaurant business, if you want to be part of the most elite team right here in Gainesville, then we want to meet you, learn more about you, and hopefully work at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. With your help and the best of food, drinks, service all around, we'll make Spurrier's Restaurant the envy of all the Seminoles and Bulldogs everywhere. We're looking forward to working with you. Be there October the 14th. We plan to meet at Hotel Indigo at Celebration Point. So go to SpurrierDraft.com, fill out the application, and we'll schedule you an interview accordingly. Take care and go Gators.
High School Roundup Thursdays brought to you by Baker Sporting Goods.
We're now joined by Columbia High head coach Brian Allen on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good morning. Everything's good this way, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Hey, crazy times. I know you always have a tremendous football team program there in Columbia. Just talk briefly. Y'all only played one game. I believe you lost one to Trinity Christian. Hadn't been able to practice, play a whole lot. How's it going for you and your kids?
Well, I mean, Shane, definitely happy to be back in the driver's seat with some football. That's for sure. We've tried to be patient with this thing, follow the recommendations, the different recommendations that have been given. We totally try to keep these kids safe and the staff safe and be precautious about it through in and throughout. Last week was a rough one, but 9 practices, I had to walk away from that thing and really look at, how we played with the limitations of practices that we had. And, I thought the kids came out and they did well. They competed for sure and had an opportunity to win that ball game. I look at each week as getting 10% better every week. We should be in week 6 or week 7. So being somewhere in that 60 to 70% range of the football team that we need to be at the end of the season. But beginning last week, there's no way we're there. But our kids are doing a tremendous job of catching up fast, man, and competing.
Coach, did y'all opt into the playoffs or opt out?
We did. And early on it was looking at the numbers. We wanted to go to 28 days after school started to see where our numbers were, how things were after we had everybody back in school and trying to practice and do those things. And so we waited those 28 days before we got into full contact and getting on those 2 weeks of the acclimatization period. And, our numbers look good this way. We've had some cases, but we haven't had anything on the football team. And we've just tried to take our time with it and do it the right way. But we ended up not starting until that Trinity Christian week. I think that was 5. And with everything pushed back, it was a week later. But again, I thought the kids competed and they're getting better every week as we expect.
Okay. So you are going to be in the playoffs or not?
We are.
I was going to say, you got to be in the playoffs, dude. Y'all are a perennial powerhouse. You have to be in.
Well, and one of the big things, Shane, was my big reason on this season, definitely wanting to have some games for sure, was for my seniors, man. And, whether it started week 3 or week 4, like some of the other teams, or whether it started week 5, the big push was to make sure I got seniors some film so they could get evaluated and have an opportunity at that college future if that's what they want. But we only have 4 games. You know, that's why this week was so big. Was we had Trinity Christian scheduled, Gainesville, Madison, and Lee. You know, we had Middleburg in our district, which was a district game that would have been home this year, and we had North Marion to finish that week 11. Well, North Marion can't travel out of county, and Middleburg, you know, at the time said that they weren't allowed to leave and be on the bus for a substantial amount of time. So, you know, having 4, losing 2, we would have had a 6-game season. We were still looking for that week 9 before we shut down. So it's now us with 4 games, and we're trying to work something out here on this back end to fulfill those 3. So that's why the playoff push to opt in was of dire importance, because if, you know, there's only 4 games. We definitely needed to be able to get these guys some more film by opting into the playoffs.
Yep, you just lost a game to Gainesville High this week, and just picked up a game from Florida High to Tallahassee. What do you know about them? And was it stressful trying to get on the phone and find somebody to come play you?
Yeah, I can assure you it was. You know, I'm driving into work Monday morning. My principal called me on the way in, and Trey says that just got off the phone with Gainesville High's principal, and you know, they had a situation arise, and they're going on quarantine. So, you know, immediately we've already had on the Florida High School Athletic Association's website that we needed a game. We hadn't heard anything. So, you know, right away I'm thinking this thing's probably going to be impossible. But, you know, I say go to social media. Let's tweet something out.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the phone rings. And, you know, it's Gaston that's saying that, you know, give us 24 hours and let's see what happens. And sure enough, they called me back and say that they can play. You know, before I'm elated. We got a game. I didn't think it could happen. And by the end of our film session Monday, I was getting a call saying that it was a no-go there. So kind of had to put my foot in my mouth, because I had, you know, posted that we'll be playing this Friday and got a game secured, and that was out. So kind of dejected there. And same thing coming back Tuesday, and, you know, just saying the game that was secured no longer is secured. We're still looking for one. And, you know, before midday, I had gotten a call from Florida High, and they had a situation where the team they were playing ended up having to cancel on them. And it all just worked out, man. And we'll have an opportunity to play this week.
Yeah, crazy stuff. When you look at your team, Coach, obviously, what do you like about your team? I know you've only played 1 game. You lost a lot of good players off last year's team. Your quarterback went to South Florida, I believe. You had a bunch of other skill guys. What do you like off your team that you've seen so far?
Yeah, and I think our defense this year, man, and we gave up some points last week. Trinity Christian had a very good scheme of what they were doing in the run game. And we didn't get to make that adjustment until late. And you know, late they had already gotten points that we weren't able to make up offensively. But I like our defense. Our secondary is, you know, arguably one of the better ones that we've had, and they're young. We only have 2 seniors in there. But we have a very good secondary. Those guys are ball hawks. They're athletic as heck. And I like that group. We had some injuries last Friday with our linebacking core. Our 2 starters went down with an ankle injury and a shoulder, and this is a year we can't afford to have anybody down. But that secondary group, man, is very talented. Our receiver group, you know, if the quarterback from last year is here, we have 4 that can get after it. And you know, we had 4 a year ago that can get after it too. But this group is pretty good. And Shane, you know, playing quarterback, man, you can't have a year where January we start 7-on-7 and it gets shut down in March. So I'm breaking in a new guy at quarterback. You know, right now we're figuring out who that guy is, because we didn't have a chance to do that from January up until April up until the summer, a continuation up until camp and getting started. So we come in, you know, with those 9 days, and it's trying to figure out who's going to manage the system better. You look at those kids that I've had at quarterback, you think about from January until they get ready to start that week 1 contest, those kids have probably had 1,000, 2,000 reps at the position to know where they're going, why they're going, what the defense is doing that's making them go there. And these kids just haven't had it. It's not a matter that of a fact that neither one of them isn't good enough to get it done, because they both are. It's just those loss of reps right now. We're going to have to very, very quickly get a really good mindset of, again, when, where, and why we're doing things and how to manage the game on the fly.
Good deal, Coach. Well, y'all stay safe. Good luck against Florida High. We'll get you on here in a couple of weeks and get ready for the playoffs, my man.
Appreciate it, Shane. Good talking with you. Roll Tigers.
All right, we're gonna go from Columbia down to Ocala and talk to Coach John Brantley.
Thank you for joining Baker's Sporting Goods High School Roundup here on Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We're now joined on the Titan Tomorrow hotline for the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Coach John Brantley from Trinity Catholic. Good morning, John. How are you?
Dane, how we doing today?
I got a message here for you. I had Andrew Thomas on a little bit earlier. He told me that you need to thank him for leaving you all those studs you got down there.
You tell him thank you. I appreciate it. There's no ego here at all. I can tell you that. I appreciate all those guys he left me. He left me a pretty good little football team. We've added a couple of pieces to it. We still got to add depth to our football program, but that's a slow process, and we'll eventually get there, hopefully.
Yep, Coach, you sit at 2-0, I believe, right now. Let's recap. You played in Gainesville on a Thursday night against Gainesville High, won, I think, 38-7. Your running back ran for a ton of yards. Talk a little bit about him.
Well, Jamarian Samuel's a special player. He's one of those kids Coach Thomas left me and everything, but ran for 2,300 yards last year, running, behind a pretty strong offensive line. And he even threw for a touchdown pass the other day to show his versatility. But great back, getting looked at by South Florida, Western Kentucky, a bunch of D1 schools, and he merits that. I'm going to tell you, he's a good player, and look forward to him playing the rest of the year.
Coach, did you come out of that game pretty healthy?
Yep, we didn't have any issues. We got a couple of dings, nothing major, so we've moved on. We got the Villages this week, who's an excellent football team. Coach Pettis does a great job down there at the Villages. He's added some players to his program, and it's going to be a big challenge. I mean, you look at our schedule. We've really, it's going to get us ready for the playoff as long as we can stay healthy. Because right after this, we got bowls. We got to go to Jacksonville, and then got Sandalwood, 8A Sandalwood coming to Ocala.
Has Trinity ever played an 8A school?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we have. We've played a couple of teams from Pinellas County down in that area, a couple 8A teams and stuff like that. But you got to be careful because they've got numbers, and the bottom line, the key to this whole thing is getting to the playoffs healthy. And but then again, we got to challenge our football team. It doesn't pay to play a lot of teams that are inferior to your bunch, and then you get surprised right away in the playoffs.
Now, you're not playing any other schools in Marion County, right?
No, they have their own 6-7 game schedule between all the publics. They're just rotating without, and we weren't included in that, and that's fine. I mean, I want to challenge our football team, play good teams each week, and we might have looked at it if that would have been brought about, but it wasn't. So we ventured out. The last 2 weeks of the season, we've got Victory Christian, who's been a regular in the state tournament and the state championship, and then got Calvary out of Clearwater, who's got an outstanding football team this year. So we've got a schedule that's I think it's going to get us ready for the playoffs.
Coach, when you look at your team, you only played 2 games. What have you liked the most? Let's start on the offense. What have you liked the most that y'all have done well, and what do you think you need to improve on to take that next step and get ready for the playoffs?
Well, we run the ball real well. Offensive line, as much hype as they get, they can play better, especially in the pass protection side of it. We've got to throw the ball better than what we've been doing. We run the ball very effective, but if you're going to win a state, and we've been down that road a few times, you got to be well versed in both those areas. You can't be one-dimensional because somebody can take you out of that. So we've got to do a better job. Cole Gonzalez has managed the game real well. I thought he pressed a little bit last week. I think being back up in Gainesville, all his buddies there and everybody around, I thought he put too much pressure on himself. And so we got to get him calmed down and get him better and the receivers better in the passing game. As far as defense, I thought we've done real well. The only points they gave up the other night was a snap over our punter's head, and Gainesville had a scoop and score for their only score. South Sumter put 31 on us, but that's a good South Sumter bunch. I know they haven't won a game, but they've played Madison County, Trinity Catholic, Bishop Moore. So they've played a tough schedule, but there's all areas of our game we can improve on.
So y'all are 3A, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I'm thinking way ahead. So take your coaching hat off and let's look towards the playoffs. That's American Heritage, probably. That if you go a long ways, you may match up with down south.
It'll be out of the north. It will be Trinity Christian, Florida High, Pensacola. They're in that northern region 1. We're in region 2. We got John Carroll, Father Lopez. I'm
talking about to get like in the state championship game. It's usually American Heritage 3A, right?
In the state championship game, it'll be Hollywood Chaminade.
That's who it is, Chaminade. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get American Heritage. I think they're like 4 or 5A maybe.
Yep.
Okay. Well, good deal, Coach. Good luck tomorrow, and we'll have you back on here in a couple of weeks.
I appreciate it, Shane. Good to see you, bud.
All right. That's Coach Brantley wrapping up our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We'll be right back.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. GTS Handyman Services, whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting in Gainesville, they are the team to hire. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. This Day in Sports is brought to you by Area Rug Masters, Gainesville's most trusted area rug cleaners. With free pickup and delivery, Area Rug Masters is the convenient way to keep your focal point of your room looking brand new. Call Area Rug Masters, 352-448-5999. This Day in Sports, 1961, New York Yankees right fielder Roger Maris becomes the Major League Baseball's all-time home run leader when he passes Babe Ruth's mark with his 61st home run. That's brought to you by Area Rug Masters. Don't forget tomorrow, folks, Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. Join us tomorrow for our Peachland Dentistry JC and the QB weekend picks. I really want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us talking college football. Also, our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup, all the great coaches. If any of your high school coaches would love to be on the show, tell them to hit up our show. We want to spread the wealth and get as many coaches on throughout the year as possible. Today's show is a wrap, brought to you by Rap Spot. Be safe out there, folks. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to have Todd Ellis, the voice of the South Carolina Gamecocks, join us as well. Take care.